Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Brian here with Rossi Bites, and I'm here with my buddy Aaron Pickrell. And as you've seen in the past, he and I like to get together and geek out from time to time. So today we're going to be talking about things like MCP servers and anything else that pops into our minds. So how's it going, Aaron?
Good, man. How are you doing? Oh, man, this is an exciting topic. I've been talking to my friends about this. The subset of friends that are willing to tolerate this this level of geekery. But uh, you know, what I'm seeing right now is this evolution of the web. You had the Web 2.0 with all the Ajax and asynchronous JavaScript that really changed the way that the experience could happen, and social media was kind of coming into fruition at that time. And then you started seeing Web 3.0 with blockchain technology and crypto and all these different semantic web type applications. And now we're going to see what I think is an agentic web, where you have agents talking to agents everywhere. You'll have an agent. I'll have an agent. We'll talk to it like Jarvis and Iron Man, and it'll shop for us or make reservations for us, and it browses websites, and it can actually click on things and do stuff. And the only way for that to work is if you have other servers with those agents running, right? The restaurant websites are going to have agents, or so my agents can talk to theirs, or at least that I think that'll make a much more elegant experience, as opposed to something trying to look and click and act as a human, with a beautiful soup type environment or
Right.
something. And then the missing piece is like, well, how do those things talk? Because we have TCP/IP, we have HTTP, but we don't, and we have APIs, but we don't have something for agent to agent communication. So when I heard about this and you started showing me the things you're working on, I was like, let's connect, man. Let's figure this stuff out.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw though this week, like Google, I think it was Google just recently released something called the
Yep.
agent to agent protocol. Like that,
Yeah.
it's
A2A.
something that they're actually, yeah, they're kind of running with that right now. But yeah, for me, I've been kind of looking into the whole MCP server route, and I think it was probably an earlier version of this idea of how do our our agents, how do our large language models, the clients, how do they talk to servers? Because you probably know the classic problem where you go into something like Claude or whatever, and you ask it a question, and it's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have access to the internet, so
Right.
I can't log into that. I can't get you that information." Like that's super annoying. You want to be able to come and do your research on something. You want to be able to reference your personal data, maybe even files that are on your system locally. You want to be able to reach out to things like YouTube, maybe to do some research on trending videos or topics. And so MCP servers is a way that you can really open up the possibilities for your MCP clients like Claude Desktop or even Cursor for that matter. And then you can say something like, I'd like you to go check for the trending videos on podcasting on YouTube for me and bring back a report. In the past, it would say, as a large language model, I'm not able to do that, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah. But now when you connect into the YouTube MCP server, it
Yep.
gives that client the ability now to go out and actually connect to YouTube's API, look up information of what's trending for podcasting, for example, bring it back, and then the large language model is able to do its magic that it does so well in summarizing things and actually become more utilitarian than it has been in the past. So it's
Yeah.
something that's been intriguing me. And like I think you said too, like this, I don't know if you said it, but Web 4.0 or whatever, it's like we're going to have agents talking to agents.
Yeah.
And, like last night, my family and we were in the city and I needed to order something through DoorDash. And I pulled it up. I went through. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, I wonder if there would be a future where I could just say to my device, I want to order, a large margarita pizza and have it delivered to the address that I'm at right now. And then just in the background, some agent is going to go out get in touch with DoorDash or whatever and connect to a pizza place that has
Yep.
margarita pizza, you know.
Yep. That's exactly what it's going to be,
And next
man.
thing I know, there's a knock at the door, and it's like, that's great
Yeah.
fresh pizza.
Well, and your agent will get feedback from their agent as far as like where the driver is. You could just ask it questions. If the driver picks up his app and says, "Hey, I have something going on. I'm running into traffic," or I'm going by a 7-Eleven. Can I, whatever those intricate sort of interactions can all be done through MCP. And ultimately, all you're hearing is your Jarvis saying, "Hey, Brian, your driver's 15
Yep.
minutes out. He's stuck in traffic. You want to? He's sitting right next to a 7-Eleven. How do you feel about a slushy?" Or
Right.
because it knows you, because your agent knows
Right.
you. And if you're like allergic to something, or you're in a hotel and they don't have napkins, like it just knows your contacts, and it can help reduce the amount of excess information that you constantly are filling in on stupid forms and all these different logins for
Right.
all these different sites. What's the point? You don't need all that. I mean, these agents can act on your
Right. Right.
behalf,
Right.
authenticate on your behalf. It's really like, it's like making my mind explode with all the possibilities, honestly. But eventually, like every technology, it'll just sort of drift into the background. No one talks about HTTP anymore. You know, no one really talks about blockchain. I mean, it's just in the background running, trillions of dollars worth of business, and people are building their companies on it and building all their technologies on it. But it's emerging. It's now. It's like you and me and the
Right. Right.
31,000 other people building servers. I was just looking at the list of servers, and it's mind-boggling how many they have.
Well, and the thing I find interesting is, MCP servers was something that Anthropic released back in November of 2024.
Yeah.
But if you actually think back even before that, OpenAI kind of already kind of saw this pattern being something that was needed when they
Hmm.
created their whole plugin framework. Because if you remember,
Mm.
ChatGPT was just, you could just come and chat with it. It had access to nothing.
Right.
And then they kind of opened up this plugin library where like
Hmm.
different companies now could develop plugins to allow you to extend ChatGPT to their services. And so
Exactly.
then now that ChatGPT, for example, could talk to Zapier,
Hmm.
Zapier has connectivity to like 8,000 different apps.
Right.
So
All
it's,
through APIs, though.
you're like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, that's a big deal, right? Like we're going to start to see less of the APIs and more of the agents through this, right?
yep, yep,
But the APIs have a purpose. I mean, you can't do 100% of everything through the agents. You want to have a programmatic interface, but um, you know, Zapier is going to be talking to a mixture of things. It's going to be talking to agents over here. It's going to be, going to you. It'll be going out to all these different APIs, combining, coalescing that information, and helping you kind of craft these elaborate things that you can build. There's
yep.
quite a few of these sort of orchestration layer technologies I'm seeing emerge, like Llama Index, LangGraph, those kind of things, or LangChain rather.
All right, so we had a little bit of a blip. We're talking about all this amazing AI agentic stuff, and like sometimes the most basic things, like is the cable plugged in properly or whatever, it's just like throws us for a loop. So we're back here, and we were talking about MCP servers and kind of the evolution from OpenAI kind of developing their plugin ecosystem, and then Anthropic came out with the MCP protocol to allow MCP clients to connect to other data sources. And I was going to share with you, Aaron, if you want to see a couple examples of something that I kind of put together.
Yeah, man, I'd love
Because I
to.
was like, I was reading all about this stuff, and I'm like, well, how reading it is fine, but like I can only ask ChatGPT to summarize articles on MCP servers for me so much. I want to
Yeah.
actually try it and see if I can get it to work.
Yep.
So let me go ahead and share my screen here. All right. So as we can see here, this is actually Cursor, and I didn't really have any clue how to, first of all, build an MCP server. And so I really kind of just came into Cursor and started with a prompt saying, I'm looking to create a new MCP server. And I have actually found, interestingly, if you don't actually specify model context protocol as being what you mean by MCP, even
Mm-hmm.
Anthropic themselves with Claude, they all
Mm-hmm.
get confused and think that you're talking about a Minecraft server of some sort. So my first test, I'm like, I put MCP server in, and it thought I was asking to build a Minecraft server or something.
That's
And I'm
funny.
like, no, I mean
Yeah,
model
it's too
context
new.
protocol. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, basically what it did was it gave me a basic server, and then I was able to hit localhost 3000, and I said, okay, now what I want to do is I want to actually connect this to an API of an e-commerce system, for example. And so I
Mm-hmm.
have an e-commerce system that I use, and I gave it information about the API that I wanted to hit with the MCP server. And basically, the goal for me was to be able to come into Claude. I was using that as my client, my MCP client of choice. I wanted to come into Claude and ask it for information about products. What
Right.
products do you have available? And so, if I come into Claude right now and say, what types of products do you have in your catalog? It'll come back with the famous, I don't have catalog information about
Right.
specific products in my knowledge base. Now, you may have tried this in the past too. If you were to say, for example, take an export of product information from your e-commerce platform and then just pump that into your LLM as like part of your prompt, you could then converse with it and it would act like it knows everything about your data. But that's not what I was looking for here. I was looking for the ability to be able to actually talk to my actual e-commerce server's API. And so what I did was I had Cursor help me build an MCP server. Like I said, I
Mm-hmm.
gave it context of the API and how to use the API and what specific information I was looking to get back. And then what I did was you have to basically come into, in this case, I'm using Claude. So you have to come into the Claude config file and you have to actually put in this little snippet of JSON to let it know about your MCP server. And so you can see here, for example, I have this e-commerce MCP server, and you basically are telling it what command to run to get the MCP server to run. If there's any
Okay.
arguments that you need to include as part of the server, you would put those in here. And then the working directory is this directory here. So this is just on my machine. You'll also see that I have 21st.dev here as well. So this gives you the ability to query 21st.dev, for example, for a component for maybe like a front end of some sort.
Hmm.
So I'll see if maybe we can fit that into this as well, because that's
Yeah.
actually pretty cool how that one works. So I'm going to go ahead and save this configuration file. And basically what I'm going to do is in Claude, if I come underneath settings and I go under developer, right now you don't see any MCP servers here.
Right.
So if you click edit config here, that'll bring up that file that we just edited. So I'm going to close Claude now, and I'm going to launch it again. And now when I launch Claude, you're going to see this little tools icon show up, and it shows me that I have 6 MCP tools available. And then over here underneath this connection icon, you have information about MCP servers that you have installed. So I can see
Nice.
21st Magic and I have e-commerce demos. So my custom MCP server as well as the 21st Dev MCP server are showing up. If you go under this icon here, you can actually see a summary of all of the tools that
Ah.
Claude now has access to. Um,
Okay. Yeah, that was something I was kind of curious about. I actually learned about today. I wasn't sure if this whole thing just basically allowed you to retrieve information or if it allowed you to actually do things. And what I'm realizing is depending on how you configure the MCP config, you can do
Oh yeah,
things. You can push stuff or change things or delete things
absolutely.
in another place.
Yeah, I mean, think of it kind of like I think of it kind of we think about HTTP and we think of like your posts, your gets, your patches,
Yep.
you know. It's giving you the access to those parts of your APIs of your other sources, but with
Hmm.
a front end that you can just give natural language prompts to get it to
Right.
do those things. You're not having to like fire up Postman,
Right.
configure the request or use curl or whatever. You're just asking like, "Hey, give me information about this," or "Hey, I want to create this component. Can you create it for me?" And like using something like 21st.dev, you can actually do that kind of stuff. So I'll show you that in a second here. But so now if I come in and say, what types of products do you have in your product catalog? It's going to think for a second, and then it's going to ask for permission. Like it knows to use my e-commerce MCP server
Hmm.
to find that information because I'm asking for product information and I don't have any other MCP servers that are set up to offer product information. So it's basically identifying which MCP server to use for what task. And then it's asking permission to be able to use that MCP server.
This is interesting to me because if you had 100 MCP servers installed, figuring out which one you were talking about that you wanted information from, I guess that's where the tools thing comes in because it probably looks at what the tools are available, it looks at the input, it figures out your
Yep.
context, and then it basically says, okay, I have a tool that does something like what you're describing. I think that's what you mean. I'm going to use that.
That, and there's also the ability when you define your MCP server, you can also tell it in the server config itself
Mm-hmm.
that the way for you to trigger your MCP server
Mm,
specifically is to do, think of like Midjourney. They have the / imagine.
yeah.
Well,
Yep.
you could do for like I think 21st dev they have /UI, and then you
Okay.
put a prompt after that. And so
Yeah, that's kind of what I
that's a
meant.
way of the server validating the request as being for that,
Yeah,
for that. So if I say,
it's kind of like in ChatGPT when I say, I need to imagine something, or I'm going to look for a picture, and I don't want it to create a picture. I want it to tell me how to go get the picture, but it just thinks to do a picture. So we're starting to see some of that, like that nuance of command architecture.
yeah, so as you can see, it said your catalog contains 50 products with prices ranging from 115 to 5,399. And then it
Wow.
kind of goes through and tells me what manufacturers there are for those particular products. And then also some premium luxury type of manufacturers. So then I can just say something too, like, what types of sofas do you have? And this is just one example. I'm not suggesting that someone's going to use
Yeah.
like Claude to interface with an e-commerce platform to like actually like I'm not saying a buyer is going to use, but you could for example be like, hey Jarvis, I'm looking to get a new couch for the living room.
Yeah.
What can you give me for information about what's out there? Send me a
Right.
picture to my phone or whatever.
Yeah.
But so you can see here, it comes back and gives us information about standard sofas, double love seat sofas, single sofas, specialty and premium. So, it was really easy to set up, especially with Cursor using, Cursor's agent or composer capability. I was able to just come in
Mm-hmm.
with natural language and say, I want to build a basic MCP server in
Mm-hmm.
TypeScript that allows me to query and fetch products from my e-commerce platform's catalog API. and
Mm-hmm.
it went away. It started asking some iterative questions about the API, and I gave it like the format of the JSON response that the API typically returns, so it was aware of that and it knew how to process that. And that's
Okay.
what you see in all the code here. Like, it's talking about all of the information and the format of the different things that it needs to format your requests when it brings that data back. And so it took care of all this coding for me, because I'm not a developer, so this is kind of out of my
Well,
out of my league. So
I'm just trying to make sure I understand what's going on here. So you went to Cursor and you asked it to basically help you with this integration to build. Did you build an? You must have built your own MCP server. Is that what you did?
yeah, so basically up at the top here, you'll see that the Model Context Protocol SDK is
Mm-hmm.
being imported into this TypeScript file here. And so
Okay.
that is it's using this SDK to understand and know how to build the MCP server skeleton, if you
I
will.
see. I
Um,
see.
and then
And so all this code is the server itself
correct.
and all the logic that makes it understand your source
Yep.
data or source system.
Yeah, and so like you can see here, construct server equals new MCP server, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving it a name and a version. And if I come back over to Claude and I go into my developer screen, um, oh, that's not where it shows that. Is it on the main from server eCommerce? So you can see eCommerce there. So that's where it's coming up with that name. And then if you go under these installed MCP servers, you'll see eCommerce demo 1.0.0. So like this is
Ah.
literally the code. And then underneath this, the code is going to look very similar to like what you would probably see for like a back end,
Mm-hmm.
like a back end API type code base, for example, where
Right.
it's gonna say, hey, go out and get this from this API, turn it into JSON or whatever, return it back, give us these, strip these things out, keep these things in, and
Mm-hmm.
then Claude now as the client is able to read that data and then use its capabilities of summarization to give you the answers. Like, for example, I have nothing in my server that tells it how to classify like what types of sofas are what types of sofas. So it's
Right.
basically coming up and just saying, "Oh, this is a double or love seat sofa. This is a specialty premium sofa." Like, I don't have any of that information statically
Mm-hmm.
defined in my MCP server. It's likely looking at the product details and determining this is more expensive, which means it's probably premium and luxury. It's probably
I see.
reading the product description data as well, so
Yep.
it's understanding more about the product. Um,
Yeah. And I imagine if you had more attributes, if you had more ratings and reviews, if you had a richer catalog, it would be an even better
oh yeah,
experience.
totally.
So is it did it actually go off and behind the scenes call um like a get all products or did it do like a search for products? Is it calling a search command, you think?
So this is basically, I just have this right now pointed to a specific category on my e-commerce
Mm-hmm.
server.
Mm-hmm.
So the URL that I gave it for the API
Mm.
is, in this case, it's just pointing to a specific category
Okay.
of that API. It's
Mm-hmm.
not it's not pulling back the entire catalog. I just kind of wanted to do a basic plumbing test, if you will, to
Yeah,
make
yeah,
sure
I hear
that I
you.
could get the data back.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you can also have it just perform a search, like execute a
Yeah.
search through API, get the results back, and then decide what to do with that
Yeah,
information.
yeah, and that's the thing is like if once you understand how to build an MCP server, like if you go into the code and actually look at how it's structured and like how different calls are being made to this or that,
Mm-hmm.
or just using something like Cursor's agent to help you build an MCP server,
Yep.
you can start adding things in. Like, I actually started to try to add in, for example, this whole section here about searching products by color. I haven't gotten it to work yet, but I've kind of started going through, and you'll see that it's creating a new tool for the MCP server, and that
Mm-hmm.
new tool is going to be called search by color. And so once that particular tool is working, when you
Mm-hmm.
come under Claude Desktop and you go underneath this tools icon, you're not going to just see
See
fetch
that?
products here. You're going to see search
Yeah.
by color also. And
Cool.
so, for example, this 21st Dev, you can see they have multiple tools that you can use
Right.
as part of their, their offering for MCP Server.
It's kind of like skills for Alexa.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? It's basically the new version of that. I mean, they were kind of ahead of the curve, to be honest. I mean, the voice-based natural language processing, you're talking to an agent essentially to go buy your laundry detergent or something. I- I don't know why. I think that'll be a part of everything though. Like they are fighting for the living room still. They still want you,
Yeah.
they want you to be able to just openly talk to things, turn down the thermostat, order a new set of batteries, light bulbs, whatever, and have it just be a natural
Yeah.
experience. I think that's where the normal consumer is going to start to see this show up is, just a ubiquitous
Yeah. Yeah.
speaker system, smart speakers.
Yeah, so the other thing was like if I do /UI, I'm pretty positive that's how you instantiate the 21st dev one. So if I say /UI and then say create a 3D carousel for my landing page,
Hmm.
it's
Wow.
going to basically say, "Oh, look, 21st.dev has a builder tool." So I'm going to go ahead and say allow for this chat
Wow.
and let me log back into 21st Dev here on my other system. Uh,
Did this require authentication into 21st Century Dev to get this?
yeah, it prompted me to. So it basically prompted me to come into 21st.dev here.
Uh-huh.
And if this works the way that it worked the last time I tested it, it's actually going to give me a couple examples to pick from.
Whoa. Did that just all happen inside of
Yeah, this
Claude?
is in Claude. And so you can see,
Holy mo Oh my God.
yeah.
That's sick.
And so now you actually I'm trying to think of where the oh yeah, you have this download as TSX here. So you could basically download the code or you can switch over to the code view and you can
Mm-hmm.
see the code here. And you can see it
Wow.
actually, this is the other amazing thing. I don't know if you picked up on this, but it's
What?
actually creating this example carousel, but
Yeah, with your
with
data.
my products from the e-commerce
Yeah, I
MCP
did see
server.
that. That's a next level.
So like if
That
I had the images up and everything available to this whole thing, this
yeah.
carousel would actually be showing the pictures of the different pieces of furniture.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that was a really cool. I think that's a good I mean, I think it explains what MCP is, where it lives in the whole ecosystem of like technology. Um, and then how easy it is to build one, not writing a single line of code. I think that was a pretty
well, I mean, even just like that example alone, like yeah, you're not going to use something like Claude or Cursor or any VS Code. You're not going to use these things as like an e-commerce customer. But say in this use case that we did, you're actually building an e-commerce page, or
yeah. That's what I'm the way I'm thinking about it.
you could come into something like Cursor, or you could come into Claude and you can say, I have an e-commerce site, I want to build a landing page, I have a product catalog. uh, One of the things I want to feature on the homepage is a 3D carousel that shows product recommendations or whatever.
Hmm.
And if you have these MCP server capabilities already in place or built, you're done. You just give it the request, and now you're just basically doing iterative tweaking
Yeah.
for your page to get it to look exactly the way you want it to look. So um,
Yeah. Yeah. I could see. The three use cases I see are if you're a platform builder, you're a commerce platform builder, you might want to expose a natural language interface that in the background is aware of the skills and is set to, hopefully you could make it to where it doesn't even ask the user, if they want to use the skill, you can just bypass that. Um, Connect to your servers, right? Like your services. You already should have an existing set of
Yep.
services that do all sorts of things. And now you providing this natural language interface on your e-commerce platform to allow users to not only pull out analytics or reports on things, but also do stuff. Create a page, create a carousel component, put it here, put it there. Let me, you know, so your business user is the second one, and then of course your end users getting the results of all that. And you could even put a natural language interface as a chatbot on your
Yep.
homepage that's using MCP in the background to essentially query the platform customer, the seller in that situation, their
Yep.
database or whatever skills that they want to expose to their end user. It's really just a matter of like, you know, who's authenticated to do what, who's authorized to change things versus just retrieve
Yep.
things,
Well, and
or
like you said at the top of this meeting, I think the importance here is that as we're moving more towards a future of primarily agentic workflows and streams,
yeah,
the different agents have to have a good way, a standardized way of talking to each other, and
mm-hmm.
I think that's what, like, MCP and the A2A protocol, like, I think that's what all these things, the focus of those is to give that framework for all of these different agentic
Yeah,
systems and platforms to be able to communicate with each other seamlessly.
yeah,
Kind of like, if you think about it, kind of like APIs. APIs typically have a
exactly.
specific structure. JSON has a
Mm-hmm.
specific structure that front end developers leverage to put stuff on the screen for everybody, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it sounds like MCP is more of like connecting a natural language input to a set of services, traditional services. A to A is more of, I have an agent here, I have an agent here, I want them to communicate. That's a protocol for that to work. So they sounds like they're compatible solutions potentially.
Yeah. And I actually saw, I can't remember what it's called. Trying to remember. I saw this solution similar to like Bolt and Lovable. I
Hmm.
can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. If I remember it, I'll put it in the description of the video. But essentially, you come and give it a natural language prompt, like, I want to build an app that does such and such. And it actually spins up, unlike these other platforms, it actually spins up an interface that shows you kind of tabs. And the
Mm.
tabs are different members of a 5 agent team. And
Oh
like the
wow.
first tab is like a product or a project manager. I don't remember which one it is. Then there's someone who takes care of there's like an overall leader. Then there's the project manager. The project manager then delegates tasks to developers. Developers then delegate tasks to front end, back. So it's like you can actually see like the
Mm.
agentic workflow of a
Yeah.
multi-agent team working to build this solution out, like, right in front of you. It's pretty crazy. I
Wow.
saw a video of it recently and I was like, what is this?
Yeah, you got to share that with me. I got to see
Yeah.
that. That sounds
Yeah.
wild. I mean, that's been my vision for a while is to build something like that. I want to have agents working for me
Yep.
24/7,
Yep.
to help run business, to help manage my finances or my taxes or, all sorts of different
Yep.
things. Legal. I'd love to have a legal consultant just sitting here on my computer, that I can basically just say, just feed it terms of service, feed it all sorts of different things, and it just knows like what I'm obligated, all my obligations for all these different companies I'm signing up for or doing business
Yep.
with. And I can just ask it questions. Am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to do that? Like, what's the arrangement here? Or if I want to put my house up for sale, that's been one thing, sell by owner. That's the main reason I've never done that in the past is because I just didn't want to be my own lawyer.
Right. Right.
I didn't want to like figure all the legal stuff out. And now it's like, hey, real estate agent.
Right, exactly.
You know, yeah, I can have my own seller agent.
So this was it here. So I don't know if this is just free. I don't know if I have to sign in with something or not, but let me just give it a whirl here. What do you want to see if it can do?
Is this the same thing that spun up the 5
Yeah.
tabs? See if it can do that.
Well, no. I got to give it something to build. Like, what do we want it to do?
Let's create a real estate seller's agent.
Real estate. What?
Let's create a real estate seller's agent that has to sell our house by owner um, without any, obviously, agent fees. And it's responsible for, putting together listings. It does everything that a real estate agent should do. Post my stuff on MLS, tell me what I have to do to sign up for that service, um, you know, do the marketing.
So I'll do this. I don't know. I think this would be more for like building an app, but I'll be interested to see what this does.
Yeah, yeah, let's just see.
Okay, sign in. Sweet. So I'll sign in with. Speaking of authentication again. All right. Let's see. So yeah, so you got Mike, the team leader. M.
Oh, I see. So it already has that. This is what I wanted to build.
Yeah.
This is
So it's got
MGX.
Mike, team leader, Emma, product manager, Bob, the architect, Alex, the engineer, and
Yeah,
David, the data analyst.
damn it. These guys got funding before me.
And so Mike is thinking, he's like, huh, how are we going to do what this guy's asking us to do? Like,
Wow.
and then it'll actually start putting together like a plan as you go through. So you can see, like, let me analyze this request. This is a complex web application that requires,
L size.
yeah.
It's gave it a t-shirt size of L.
So, Mike is asking Emma to create a comprehensive PRD.
Wow.
And then it says, I've initiated the development of the real estate seller's agent platform. We'll follow a structured development process. So Emma's thinking here now. She's searching some web information. Um,
And it's like, who cares how long this takes?
yeah, and this does take longer than like Bolt or Lovable does, but
But like, so what? I mean, that's another interesting thing. We're going backwards in expectation of speed.
totally.
You know, this whole like I have to have my answers immediately, that only mattered when you were using it to get small building blocks to do the ultimate results of what this is
Yep.
doing. Like if I need to get a snippet of code to write an application, I expect that snippet of code to come back fast. If I say, hey, write the whole damn application, I'm going out to lunch,
Right. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. I don't care if it takes an
But you
hour.
can you
I
can
don't care
see
if it
she
takes all night.
Emma has reviewed 8 web pages in the time that we've been talking about it. And she's gone out to like the
Wow.
top for sale by owner platforms. She's looking at the ratings and stuff like that. She's looking up pricing information if there's anything.
Wow.
So doing all that kind of work, reviewed 10 additional web pages about MLS listing requirements and regulatory changes.
Bro, software companies are in trouble. They better all pick up on what's being put down here. This is going to change the entire industry.
I mean, you can just see here. It's like, buyer's agent fees no longer required to be paid by sell. Like, so now Emma's putting together the PRD to know what to give to the
I,
development team. And
yeah,
that's obviously being done in Markdown here over on the right.
yeah.
Um,
Where's your tester?
yeah, good question. That's
Any
me. That's
QA?
me.
Yeah,
I'll let you know whether this works or not.
I'm sure they'll add it. They'll probably add QA next, and then a documentation agent, and then a support agent, and then you can pay them to have like this all be deployed live with a complete
Yeah.
company, a whole company behind the scenes that's running this
Yep.
application.
And you can see too, like it uses Claude 3.5 Sonnet as the model, but you also can, you can pick other deep.
Isn't 3.7 out? Yeah, look at that.
3.7 is,
You should try that.
and then you could do DeepSeek, you can do GPT-4o.
Yeah.
Okay, so now she's basically, she's given her information back to Mike. So Mike is now saying to Bob, the architect, please design a system architecture for this.
Incredible. This is exactly what I had in mind.
So now Bob is architecting it.
How much is this?
Difficult points and solutions. Like he's even coming up with, a mermaid diagram.
How much is this service?
Good question. I don't know.
I mean, it's doing a lot of shit for you.
I literally I came into it live here for the first time ever. Like I said, I only saw a video on it before. I actually I Googled this to see what it was called.
This is your first go round.
This is my first cold take on it.
Man, I give you a hard challenge.
Totally blown away.
Yeah, this is incredible.
Yeah, so this is.
How do you feel about little plump cartoon characters doing all your work for you?
As long as they do good work, I guess.
Yeah, like who cares what they look like?
So yeah, Bob is now editing his plans here. So yeah, we'll let that churn for a minute. But like, it looks like if we.
Oh, this is
there's
exciting,
a planner view, so you can see the planner view.
You know, it's going to be interesting. What I want to see when it gets to the developer, is it going to download and install all the Docker systems, or all the containers, or all the open source projects? Is it going to create accounts for different services? Or, when I use Cursor, even with agent mode, I still have to babysit it. Even if I put it in YOLO mode, it'll still kind of like stop, and I have to kind of interject.
Yep.
I'm really curious if this is like agent mode, YOLO mode on steroids, or if it's going to require just as much interaction.
Yeah, good question. I don't know.
We'll find out. This is exciting, man.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I wanted. I wanted to create a virtual software company. That's what I want. Where it has all the different pieces of the puzzle. It can scale infinitely depending on investment. However much is invested in it, I'll just have 1,000 instances of these running at all times, building all sorts of software.
Yep. Yeah, you can see Bob's just writing all kinds of stuff over here, creating steps.
Wow, this is slick too. It's a good interface. I'm curious about this company.
All right, so now Mike, the team leader, got Bob's architecture plan. So now he's asking Alex, the engineer, to implement the real estate seller's agent web application using React, JavaScript, and Tailwind. And
Alex just got nailed.
Yeah.
He's lit up. What does the data analyst do?
That I don't know.
I wonder what. Okay, so it's creating components.
Yep.
A property card, a property form.
Now, what it might be doing is it may be, excuse me, it may be building a front end app that allows you to sell houses.
Multiple houses.
Yeah. It may not be. I think what you were looking for was more of an actual agent that you could put into like an agentic workflow of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably building a front end to allow you to sell your house.
Yeah. What I probably would have done differently, and I know we're short on time, we're just kind of playing around here, and I'm sure you do the same, is go into ChatGPT or Claude and ask it to construct the prompt that would be optimized for MGX, so that it doesn't get this wrong. Because the last thing you want is for this to go burn through a million tokens.
Yeah, exactly.
And
that's why I'm on the free plan.
It's not what you wanted. Yeah.
At least,
but I mean,
at least I think I am.
just your time waiting for this. Like I'd hate to wake up the next day and it was completely
Yeah,
off
yeah.
just because of my garbage input, you know? Like if I didn't give it a good input, it's not going to give me a good, I mean, it's good. It's going to be a great version of what it thinks it's supposed to do, but it wasn't what I wanted
Right,
it to
right.
do. So that's something a lot of people don't understand. That's where, you know, there's all this talk about prompt engineering, but to me, it's just a matter of like common sense. You just, if you're dealing with anything or anybody and you don't give it good instructions, you can't expect good
Right.
outcomes. So,
Yeah, no, like I mean, even our prompt was probably fairly vague. You know, it was like
oh yeah,
create an agent to allow me to sell my house. Like, okay,
I'm sure it'll match that criteria, but it'll also let me sell other
yeah, yeah,
houses, is what it sounds like. But so what? I mean, that sounds pretty great. I could probably then just say, come in here and say, you know what, change the website to be something that is focused on my
yep,
properties or my property if I'm just selling one
sure.
house. Man, you could build a whole business, not only to do this or to be a competitor to MGX, but you're building a business basically right now. I mean, these
Alex, by the way,
applications,
just opened up a terminal window, and he's
heck yeah, see how fast he types.
looks like we got some errors about things being defined but never used. That should be okay. That
Oh
should be
yeah.
okay.
Let's see if
But if
he
I'm
can
guessing,
handle
he's actually
problems.
doing a like an npm install and a build to see if.
Exactly. That's the other thing is like, is it installing all that software? Is it still, you know, when I go through and install things, there's all sorts of problems, you know, like conflicts of versions of different things when I'm using, you know, stuff like PyTorch, you know, or any of those AI systems that are, you know, relying on so many other things or so many other things rely on it.
Yep.
I spend a lot of time kind of hashing out like compatibility problems. It'd be interesting to see if it sort of negotiates that.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. Oh, it looks like he needs to fix linting errors. So it
Yeah,
looks like he's.
Cursor does that a lot.
Well, and I find too, like it's weird to me, but it just seems like a lot of like regenerating code rather than just going in and modifying, like identifying and modifying the stuff that's got to be changed. You know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see if it works now. Uh,
Looks like it's just gonna spend time fixing it. I mean, I go through
what?
this
Yeah.
all. The linting errors
So
are
do
like the
I.
main
So do
things.
I. Yeah.
But the fact that you're not touching the keyboard to make this happen, you know, you could be working on another
I'm gonna
program.
just turn around and play my key. Gonna play
Exactly.
my keyboard back here.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, go to bed and wake up the next day to an application, you know, or
Yeah.
or whatever. I mean, hell, if it takes you a week and all you're doing is like helping it along and evaluating it and giving it feedback every day.
All right. All the TypeScript and linting errors have been resolved. The remaining warnings are related to components. Blah blah.
Quote limit. See,
Yep. They love to do this. They get you right there to the edge, and then it's
yeah,
like you got to pay.
yeah, that's about the best lead down I've ever seen, by the way. Like where you go down a hole and it's you get to use it
Yep.
until the end.
But I mean,
But
as you saw here, like we literally we went from talking about MCP servers to a platform that's actually got kind of an agentic workflow built into it, and it's actually
right,
you can see how the different agents are communicating with each other in a
right,
role slash persona based way, the way you would
yep,
expect an actual team to work, and so it
right.
really is.
I'm guessing it's probably using MCP for external services. It's probably using A2A for the intercommunication. It's probably using Llama Index to access its own data and to access its own applications. I mean, who knows how they've architected, but I can kind of see how you could do that.
Yeah.
And if you build it yourself, I mean, hell, this is what I would do with it. I'd say build another version of yourself so I can have it
Yeah,
and run it.
build a version of yourself and upload it to GitHub. Make it a
Yeah. What's stopping people from doing that? Like I would like I would like a multi-agent programming company. Can you please help me with that? I mean,
yeah.
that's we're getting in some crazy place in this world.
It really is. And the thing is like I don't know if you noticed, but like it used to be like every week one of the big names would drop something that like just shook the entire ecosystem like off its core. And now it's like I feel like every day there's something new being released by this
Oh, I
company or
can't
that
keep
company,
up.
or it's like a
Yeah.
full-time job just trying to keep track of all the trends. And
Yeah.
that's why there's a lot of
Well, that's it.
that's why I love a lot of the other great content creators too, because some of them that is actually their
Hmm.
full-time job now. Like they they
Yeah.
they make a living on following these trends and creating content, so I find them extremely
Yeah.
helpful. um,
Yeah, good point. I mean, they do your work for you, and that's the value that they're providing, and that's really um, all you have to really do. I mean, I'm also working on a research agent that just checks for trends, AI
yep,
trends. It's looking at like patent reports. It's looking at recent acquisitions. It's looking at VC funding trajectories. Seeing what all these folks are doing. If you can stay ahead of the curve and you can use these tools, in my opinion, to build them yourself to do the things so you're not using services. I mean, use the services to build the tools so you don't need
right,
services, right? That's the method I'm kind of thinking is the winning, recipe for success here is once you have your own stuff doing all these things that you would have otherwise used a service for, you're at zero cost, you're really reducing that cost. You could just keep bolting on service after service after service, or you can make some of your own. Some people are just so far ahead though it's hard to catch up, like 11 Labs. I've experimented with jumping ahead of that, and you can't touch them.
yeah, no,
Yeah, they have too much funding, too much energy putting into a very specific thing. But there's going to be a lot of competition in the market for these what I call AI wrappers. There's the foundation model builders. That's its own specialized space that you have to have billions to get into,
yep,
and good luck. And then there's maybe specialty model makers, where they're writing models that do very specialized things. And then there's all the people who use all those
yep.
models, building agents, building MCP servers, and creating whatever kind of applications on top of that stuff.
Well, and
So,
the other thing I find interesting too is like, and I understand why the trend is this way, but everything is large language model, large language model, large language model. But there is an entirely other part of the AI spectrum that is a small language model.
yeah,
And a lot of those providers that have small language models, that allows you to have a super hyper focused model trained on a
yep,
specific thing, maybe a
yep,
specific industry, whether it's legal or finance or whatever. And it's
yeah,
something that, oftentimes even is open sourced. And so you're able to bring that into your infrastructure and
yep,
load it and train it and tune it with your data. But
mm-hmm,
it doesn't cause data centers to be having melting GPUs all day long, you know?
yeah, exactly,
So
exactly. Well, and there's all there AI has been going on for 60 years or more. I mean, it was invented with statistical models. It's only really kind of been fairly, I mean, they started neural nets back in, I think, the 90s or 80s. I mean, it was basic neural nets was like a competitive uh, strategy for AI that didn't really pan out well in the short term. But with compute exploding, that's where, when you have compute and cloud and like basically infinite memory, these things are more
right.
practical
Yep.
now. And so now the neural nets are just mind boggling. So they've created a whole nother class of model types, but there's still like tons of statistical models, tons of models that still are highly
Yep.
valuable, classification
Yeah.
models and all that kind of stuff that hopefully these things are using, in an agentic kind of
Yep.
way. Because I don't think, I'm sure that some of this stuff is actually using that in the background. I honestly don't understand, like when you upload an image to ChatGPT, is it, and you ask it what it is, it's like, how, it's not language. Is it sending it off to another service, or is it handling it through its own
I think
weights?
it has its own system that it runs it through. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously one of the original pioneers of that was Google Vision, and Google
right.
Vision, to me was like the first iteration of a multimodal. Like you're feeding it an image, it's
Yeah,
looking at the image and it's telling you specific things about that image, like what
yeah,
color palette it is, what it actually is.
yep,
And going back to e-commerce again, this is what kind of enabled, retailers to start offering things like visual search and stuff like that. Like it would look
mm-hmm,
at what you're taking a picture of, process it, find something in the catalog that's similar, or you could
right,
say, I got to go to the hardware store to buy this thing, but I don't know what this thing is. So I'm going to take a picture of it. You can analyze it and
mm-hmm,
it'll come back and tell you, oh, this is a whatever.
yeah.
Um,
And that's all pre-LLM. I
right,
mean, so the question is like, are the LLMs sort of aggregating? I need to do some study on this to understand. Are they aggregating all those models into one giant model, or are they orchestrating with specialty models through an application layer? Because when you download one of these foundational models, it's not an application, it's like
right.
its own model and with weights and stuff that you can
Yep.
manipulate. So,
Yeah, it's
anyway,
it's a crazy it's a crazy space.
yeah, it is. It is. Well, this was good
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
man. I always appreciate the time. I love chatting with you about all this stuff.
Same.
Uh, it's I'm looking forward to our next session. Hopefully we'll see what the results of the of the real estate agent application looks like.
Well, you asked what the job of the data analyst was and where the QA and testers come in. I guess the success story will be whether or not if you're actually trying to sell your house, did it work? Did it
Yeah.
work? Did you sell it? Did it sell
Yeah,
your house?
really. Exactly. That would sell the whole software. That's cool, man.
Well, hey,
Well, I hope we see you. I hope we see you again soon,
yeah, yeah,
man. I'm looking forward to another
yeah,
chat.
awesome. I hope you have an awesome weekend.
You too,
All right, see you
Brian.
later.